Welcome to the DealMachine podcast, Greg. It's so glad to have you here. You actually run Maui Home Buyers, and we've been friends for several years, but never did a podcast episode. I believe your partner is actually well-known Brandon Turner, right? The Bigger Pockets original host, and now he's got his own podcast as well. Is that right?
Yeah. So Brandon and I worked together for a few years. Recently, he's been more focused on the mobile home parks. So he hasn't been as involved in flipping on Maui. So I have been working with some other people
Got it.
in that time. But we've done some deals together, and that's been an amazing learning experience.
So Maui Home Buyers is how you market direct to seller to homes on Maui to flip or hold as rentals, or do you even wholesale them too?
Yeah, so I market as Maui Home Buyers, which is also the name of my LLC. But I only buy the only deals I actually really don't buy any deals under the LLC unless I'm doing a flip or a wholesale on my own. But I do market as Maui Home Buyers, and I do flips, wholesales, and I buy rentals. However, the rentals I buy under my personal name and then just use an umbrella policy to cover me there based on my lawyer's suggestions.
That makes a lot of sense, right? So you want the brand name to be recognizable, and you typically would hold the property, through a different company. How long have you been doing real estate, Greg?
I've been in real estate, since I graduated high school, really. I started as an appraiser in 2003, right out of high school, and that lasted until the recession hit. As soon as the recession hit, I was the youngest, newest guy so I didn't have enough business to pull through that. And then, I've worked other like kind of W-2 sort of jobs in real estate. I was an in-house escrow coordinator for a big brokerage on Maui. I was a vacation rental manager for a while. And ultimately, my investing career started in 2016, 17. That's when it actually started. I was trying to buy investment properties for a long time before that, but I didn't know about resources like Bigger Pockets and DealMachine and these podcasts that taught me everything I needed to know. So I was just out there, completely blind to how to successfully invest in the principles to work under. But to answer the question, my actual investing career started around 2017.
Got it. So were you just out there looking at agent listed properties, trying to see if there was one that would cover the mortgage with the rent, or what exactly were you doing back then originally?
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, I worked for a big brokerage here on Maui, and the principal broker was like a mentor to me. He's super successful, had been in real estate his whole life on Maui, and he kind of was guiding me through what he thought was the best investing strategy, which is just retail, right? At the time, we were looking at condos in Lahaina on Maui, in the complex that I lived in, and I could buy one for like $180,000. And so I was just looking for the best deal on the MLS, and I made several offers. I came within, there was one deal where I think we were $5,000 apart, and I didn't pull the trigger because of that. In hindsight, for a long time I was kicking myself because those things were worth $500,000 not too long ago. But now I feel like I really something was looking out for me, because first off, that building burnt down.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's heard about the fires on Maui. That whole town burnt down. So, and there's been multiple other properties, even once I actually started investing, that I came within so close to buying, and I didn't.
Why did you end up wanting to get into real estate investing specifically? Because I know you were an appraiser and then a broker.
Yeah. So I think the seed was planted when I was a kid, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, doing appraisals in Miami. And there's one particular instance that stands out in my head where I went to meet a guy at an appraisal, and I would see people flipping houses all the time because I was doing their appraisals. And I saw this in my mind, a kid, probably somebody, a guy was probably like late 20s or something like that. But he pulls up to meet me at this like beat up old house in a war zone in Miami in a Ferrari for the appraisal. And I was just like, holy cow, like what, and I'm a car guy. So like, I know, some people might look at that and be like, oh, it's gaudy or whatever. But like, to me, there's a lot of meaning and passion and like, I love cars. So I can appreciate a car like that. So anyways, like that really stuck out to me. It was like, this guy's driving around doing what he wants with his day, working for himself. And he's clearly successful and getting to, experience these things in life that I want to experience. And so that planted the seed for me. And ever since then, I've been really interested in doing it, but I just never knew that I could do it without necessarily having $1 million to start off with. Right. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, finding these resources is what taught me that.
So when you were looking for your first rental properties without resources or a lot of knowledge, were you going to buy and get a house for 20% down?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think I was going to do, I'm an owner occupant loan. So I was going to live in it at first. But I don't remember whether I was going to do a 5% or 20% down, but I
Owner
was,
occupant
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, you have to put 3.5 or 5% down, and then a year later maybe you could convert it to a rental property.
Yeah. And I was just looking at it like, okay, well, right now I'm paying, I think at the time I was paying like 15 or 1600 in rent. And when I ran the numbers, I was like, okay, I could live in it and pay the same or less than what I'm paying for rent, or I could rent it out and, maybe cash flow a
Mm-hmm.
couple $100 or something, which in my mind, I was like, if it cost me 1500 and I can rent it for 1700, what? Like, that's amazing. I didn't realize that. And so, and I also had another time a few years later where I was looking at this. There's a complex on Maui. It's called Harbor Lights, and it's kind of known as like the war zone of Maui. But like on the mainland, it'd probably be like a C-class property. It's really not that bad. But I was working at another brokerage where I was a vacation rental manager, and the principal broker of that brokerage, managed some long-term rentals in that complex. And one day I was sitting in the office and I was like looking at the listings, and I was like, and I mentioned her, I'm like, hey, these condos are listed for like $60,000-$70,000 for sale. I mean, and they're renting for 1,300. It, I'm doing the numbers in my head. Had no idea how to analyze a rental at the time, but I'm like, it seems like you could make like $400 or $500 a month off of these things. Like, it seems like they would make money. And she says, oh, you don't want anything to do with that place. Stay away from it. That, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. And so she was an authoritative figure at the time. Right. And the lesson that comes out of that is look at the source, right? Like, what is their position? And in my
Mm-hmm.
mind at that time, this is like an authority, right? She knows real estate. She knows the complex. She knows all the stuff. She's not an investor. She
Yeah.
does not know. She's working for the investors, but she doesn't actually own rental properties. So she doesn't understand all
Right.
that hard work that she does, and the nastiness that she deals with managing those tenants is making those owners cash flow every month. And I actually ended up buying a unit that she used to manage. I think it was the second unit. Yeah, second unit I ever bought. She had been managing it, and it was just it was so nasty. One of my contractors like refused to even work in it. So full of cat pee, and just it was so gross. And I still own it today, and it cash flows, and it's been a great unit.
Somewhere along the lines, you worked for $8 an hour at Sports Authority. So was that before or after you were doing property appraisals?
That was after appraisal. So the recession hit. I struggled with addiction for a lot of my youth, through my teens. My dad died when I was 14, and
Mm.
that just sent me off I just spiraled after that. I would get it together for a little bit. I did good at appraisals for a bit, and then I lost that and just spiraled again. And ultimately, that kind of during the Great Recession, I would say, is when I was suffering a lot. I got to the point where addiction, I hit some really low bottoms, and I was working for $8 an hour at Sports Authority, and I couldn't support my habit, so I was stealing, and I got arrested for grand theft and fraud, and now I had two felonies, and I like at that time I was like, how am I ever gonna recover from this, right? Like, there's no light at the end of the tunnel for my life, right? I was like, I'm just gonna like be a bum, I guess, for the rest of my life. And I like to think back on that a lot, and I like to share it too, because like a lot of times we go through things in life that we're just like can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think just thinking about things like that was such a bleak situation, and if you had told me at that time that I was going to live on Maui, I'm from Florida, so I was living in South Florida at the time. If you told me that I was going to live on Maui, own my own home, own, multiple homes, own rental properties, be able to surf and kite surf every day, have my weekend car and my daily driver, owned cash, like no loans, like all that kind of if you told me the life that I was going to have right now, I would never been able to imagine that.
Yeah.
It would have been so far beyond my wildest dreams. And so it's valuable for me even just to like share that with you, because it reminds me like there's so many little things I could complain about today, but I have it pretty darn good. And yeah.
You
Wow.
have it pretty darn good now, but I'm sure a lot of people are in that situation too, that probably feel like they don't have a light at the end of the tunnel. And for you, first off, congratulations, because that's coming out of that. Like that can't be easy. Like we have struggles in our daily lives that feel tough, but nothing compared to like losing your father, going through addiction, and being able to come out on top. Like most people don't survive that kind of thing. So the fact that you did tells everybody that it's possible. You just have to dig deep. Like that's a really challenging thing to think, oh, I could make it through that. I don't know, like how I don't know that I could have done that. So that's crazy. And again, kudos for digging out of that. So
right. Was real estate your answer, or was that just something you found along the way through recovery?
Yeah, fell into it.
I would say I kind of found it along the way. I rediscovered it. I mean, it was always there. When I did work some other jobs in Florida before I moved, I got sober again, and it was not like I just got sober and then stayed sober and then changed my life, right? Like it was a struggle. I relapsed countless times. But each time I just made progress. And once I moved to Maui, that's when I got the job at the brokerage. So I'd say I had a solid, probably 4 or 5 years where I had nothing to do with real estate.
Wait, how did you move to Maui?
I had a girlfriend that was a physician's assistant, that I was with for a long time, and she got offered a job here. We both wanted to get out of South Florida. We both are ocean people, surf and water sports. And she had just been sending her resume out. She was miserable at the doctor's office she was at we were in Miami at the time. And so she got a job out here. She got a job offer here, and I hated the job I had, but it was a manager position, so I thought it was good for my resume. And my lease was up on my apartment. We just, everything fell into place. It was one of those things where like I try to. One of the things about my recovery is like trying to like listen to like God's will for me, right? My intuition, which I interpret as my intuition. Like, what do I feel deep inside is the right thing to do? And like, for me, I feel like that's what like God, the universe, the spirit, whatever it is, right, is like trying to giving me that direction. And moving to Maui was one of those things where it was like, I would have had to have tried to not move here. Like everything was just fell into place. So it was like meant to be.
So where's your business at now? You moved to Maui, you had a job, but eventually you got into the real estate investing. And when did you start marketing direct to seller, I should say, by forming, Maui Home Buyers?
Yeah. So I started doing like direct mail pretty early on. I started using some of like the websites where you do like, upload your list and send out letters. And I realized, I had some success with that. However, once I found DealMachine, I was like, holy cow, this like changes the game, right? Because now I can just market specifically to like, I can go out and find the houses and not have to like write down the addresses, right? And then bring them back and put them on my list. And so I would say that was probably around 2018 or 2019. And since then, DealMachine's been instrumental in my business. Like, so, not to plug or anything, I know we're on the DealMachine podcast, but like I have to say, like, people ask me all the time. I'm doing a wholesale deal right now, and the buyers have only done a couple deals, and they're like eager to learn from me, and so I'm trying to teach them everything I can. And they're like, "How do you find deals?" And I'm like, "Well, there's not one single source. Like I market. I do online marketing. I do word of mouth. I get deals." But if there was one single source, it would be DealMachine. Like that's the one source that over the years has stood the test of time. Oh, I go to auctions, the courthouse auctions, but like right now those are slow, so everything kind of ebbs and flows. But I would say like over the course of my career, DealMachine and direct mail marketing is like the one source that has stood the test of time. And it's the one that I don't really lift the throttle on. I continue marketing on. And
Yeah,
actually,
well, I'm glad to be a part of the success for sure, and appreciate the mention of that. I was curious, are you doing mostly wholesale deals, or are you buying off market for your own portfolio? And kind of at what scale is that at now?
I would say it tends to be a pretty even split, a third, a third, a third. Flips, wholesales, and rentals. And we're not a huge operation, right? Like I don't have any employees. It's just me. Like I'll do a flip with Brandon, or I'll do a flip with David, or my other business partner. But I would say on average, maybe one flip, one wholesale, and one rental a year. Right. But they're usually, like the median price here is 1.35, I believe it is. So buying a rental takes a lot of cash. Usually around $300,000 to $500,000 in cash. And then, the good thing about wholesales, I love wholesales because you can get pretty decent fees. The one I'm doing right now, the fee is 35,000, which is not amazing, but it's pretty good. Like I've done wholesale for 100,000 before.
Did you say you did one wholesale deal per year?
On average, yeah.
And then
I
one
don't
flip
think I
per
did
year.
one last year, but yeah, I'll usually do like one or two flips, maybe one or two wholesales, and buy one rental usually a year.
Wow.
But in that, you can, it's affording you to live comfortable. You get to do everything you want to do with just that small scale business model.
Yeah, and I don't have to work a whole lot. So, I mean, I could probably do more. Maui's also a small market, so
Right.
there's a limited amount of homes. I could spend more time driving for dollars, which I would like to do. And then the other thing that I'm learning about, David and I spoke about before, I'm old school too, and I'm not keeping up with technology as much as I should, especially with the AI stuff now. But so like I just use DealMachine for driving for dollars. Like I don't even use it. There's so much more that it's capable of. Like, and I'm learning so much more recently. So I'm really excited to start implementing some of the new technology and the new features that DealMachine has built in. Some of the lists I'm like, yes, this is like gold, right? But I've only used DealMachine for driving for dollars and for adding leads on, like I said, on my laptop. If I get a list of the current list pendants or pre-foreclosures, I just add them on my laptop. But and just from doing those two practices, DealMachine has brought me like some really good deals, some of the best deals I've ever done.
Tell us about one of the best deals.
So actually, I have it pulled up here. This is a house in Kihei that I bought in 2021. So I've had it for a while, and the reason I'm using such an old one is because it's just my favorite property out of all my rentals and everything I own. This is like the one that, and it might be because this is actually the very first single family house. Actually, it's a 4-unit, but it's the first residential house that I bought on my own. I bought condos before that. I have 9 condos. And this was the first time I bought a house. And I actually remember the day. This is crazy to me. I was driving by the house and I saw it and I was like, that thing looks like a killer rental property. I pulled it up on DealMachine and I saw that the guy lived on the mainland. So he doesn't live in the state of Hawaii. He lives in Colorado. He had bought it for like $400,000. He had owned it since it was built in 2001. It was a newer house because most stuff in Maui is built in the 70s. I'm like, oh, this is like amazing. And so I added him to DealMachine and totally forgot about it. And it must have been a few months because I remember when he called me, like I had totally forgotten, even though this house stood out to me so much. But when I pulled it up and looked at the house, I was like, oh yes, like that. When I saw that house, I was like, that's a cool, like that's like a killer rental and a great location and all this stuff. But it doesn't look like the guy. It also didn't look like he was taking care of it, right? Because he lives in Colorado and he's got some property management manager here that doesn't care about it. So the house I bought for $855. It was worth at the time about a little under $1 million. I think it was worth about 950 ish. So right off the bat, like it wasn't a screaming deal. Like I don't think it hit, like the 75% criteria or anything like that. But there were a few reasons why I was able to like add value, and like the seller was really savvy too. So like it wasn't like he was gonna, let it go for a huge discount. But anyway, I was still happy with the price, even though it wasn't quite as at the criteria. And I was able to, I bought it as an owner occupant. And I had planned on moving into one of the units. I never ended up doing that, but don't tell the bank. It's been long enough now that it doesn't matter. But I did intend to live. So I did meet the qualification, right? The qualifications you need to have intend on occupying it. Yeah, and I did have that intention. It didn't work out that way, but anyway, so I bought it for $855. Today it's worth about 1.4, I would say. It was worth about 1.5, but the market's a little soft right now, so we'll say about 1.4. So there's a lot of equity there. The best part about this property is the monthly cash flow is $5,500. So this, yeah, just on one property. So like that's one of the reasons why I love this property too, because it's probably my single biggest cash flowing property, and it makes up a pretty significant portion of my monthly cash flow. Like if all else fails, if I had a fire sale, all the rest of my properties and stuff, I mean, I could theoretically survive just on this one.
Just on one property.
That's amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah. So do you manage it yourself, or you have a third-party management company?
I do. Yeah. I self-manage all of my rentals. Like I have nothing else to do with my time, right? Except for kite surf. So
yeah. Remind us, how many doors do you currently have?
20.
20. Okay.
Yeah. And that's including like condos. So there's 9 condos, and then there's 4 or 5 houses, and some of them have like 4 units. We have ADUs are a big thing in Maui. So we've had ADUs here since forever. So like this property, it's the main house is 2,300 square feet split up into 3 units. And then there's a detached cottage in the backyard.
Do you want to show us? Do you have it pulled up?
I don't have pictures of it pulled up.
Oh, okay.
But
no problem. I was just curious.
Do you mind sharing what your cash flow portfolio wise is?
Total cash flow?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I should be more up to date on, but I would say totals is somewhere, and it, depending on how CapEx and maintenance vacancies are, but I would say somewhere around 15,000.
Okay.
Ebb and flow. It's about to drop right now because I'm getting divorced. About to finalize my divorce, so I'm giving my ex-wife 4 condos, free and clear. So basically, that's kind of like lighting a fire under me. That's been another challenge, right? It relates a lot to how we talked about my addiction and not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I think like my experience with my addiction is really valuable for me right now because, or not right now, but over the last like year and a half since this happened, like there was a while where I was like really struggling with the idea of like what are the consequences going to be of this? Like, how am I going to be able to maintain my lifestyle? And is my business going to survive and stuff like that? But what I was able to apply from my past is that everything's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. Like everything works out. Right. And like, whatever happens, it's all going to work out and be fine. And it is, like I'm giving her 4 condos. It's not the end of the world. It's my cash flow is going to take a hit, but I also have the skills, the knowledge, and the resources just to go out and keep
Do it
building my
again.
business, build it
Yep.
back. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a hit, and it's gonna hit my cash flow. It's gonna hit my equity. Um, and also, by the way, our market has really taken a hit on Maui, especially condos, because there's this bill being passed to ban vacation rentals, and so they're going to ban 7,000, or they want to ban vacation rentals in 7,000 of the condos on Maui that are permitted
Gosh.
to do vacation rentals, and that has really hurt condo, and it's come right at the wrong time, right? Because the market was already in a slump just nationwide. It's been a slow market. And so the point is, a lot of condos have dropped like as much as 50% in value. So I lost over $1 million in equity in the last year. And then I'm losing another $1 million to buy the 4 condos and, that I'm giving her.
Oh man.
But I can make it back, and I still have enough. I'm totally fine. Like I still have more than I ever could have dreamed of in the past. So
yeah, well, thanks for sharing that, man. It's personal, difficult. I'm sure there's somebody listening who would learn from something. And one of the things you told me before the call was y'all actually had an agreement, but for whatever reason you didn't sign it. And
yeah,
I've heard this advice before. It's like you want to determine this stuff while you're at your best, not when you're at your worst, right? And I guess some of the feelings changed, I think, in the moment, right, of who would get what.
Yeah, and I would suggest to everyone out there, if you're married or not, like if you're getting married, whatever the case is, draw up a prenuptial agreement. If you're already married, draw up a postnuptial agreement while things are good, because like people think there's like a negative connotation to that. And having like writing a prenup doesn't mean that the wife or the husband doesn't get anything, right? That's not what it means. A prenup says whatever you want it to say. Our postnuptial agreement said that everything I bought after the house that I just shared with you, everything that I bought after that house in 2021 would be split 50-50. And if we had stuck with we both agreed at the time, like this is fair for our circumstances. She didn't contribute to my business financially or, through sweat equity or anything like that. I spent my free time building the business while she was watching Netflix, and I'm not bashing her. She's an amazing person, but like, that's what she chose to just punch in, punch out. I heard W-2. We kept finances separate, and we agreed that this was the fair thing if we were to ever get divorced. And I just trusted her too much, and I didn't ask her to sign it. We put it into a Word document. We're like, okay, now we know and we agree. But I really wish that we had that, signed and reviewed by a lawyer, because it would have saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars in divorce. And I think it's really important. And it also would have saved, I think more important is that it would have saved her and I from having to go through this, like going to mediation, right? Like hurting our potential long-term friendship going forward, right? Because like she's an important person in my life. And I wish that we could be on better terms than we are. We're not like at each other's throats or anything like that, but we're just not, it definitely has hurt us, at least in the short term. So I strongly recommend, just while things are good, having a pleasant conversation about like, hey, what do you think is fair? Let's figure this out now.
Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
What does fire under your ass Greg look like going forward? Are you going to do 2 deals?
The main thing that I'm really stoked about right now is, like I already said, is really learning how to implement all the new features of DealMachine and reaching those
the data
sellers.
side, right? How data centric it is, and how you can look up who owns it, who's renting it, who are their family members, et cetera, all that. To call them, to email them, or to direct mail them. But that's what you mean, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
awesome.
If
you got any questions on that while you get into it, I'm your guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I will take that opportunity for sure. It's I feel like that is just an amazing way to reach sellers that might not be getting as much direct mail, right? They might not have as many people just driving by the house, because you always got like that one house on a regular, like busy street or main street that everybody, especially on a small island like Maui, like there's only so many streets. So like there's certain streets that everybody drives on. There's one house just maybe a few blocks from my house that anybody that has come through my town has driven down the street and seen this house. And I've sent them direct mail, right? Because of course I'm going to. But I also realize that so has every other person that's ever been considered investing on Maui, right? So there's those houses, and then there's the ones that are off the street, and then there's the ones that are a little more hidden, and then there's the ones that you're not going to find unless you're digging into the data on DealMachine. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of opportunity with those.
So excited to have you dig into that, man. It's awesome.
Me too.
How do you end up deciding whether you're going to wholesale it, flip it, or add it to your own rental portfolio, since that seems to be your split?
Yeah. So, I mean, the rental part is easy, right? Like deciding if it works as a rental. Well, there's two things. Number one, just seeing like, can it cash flow? Most houses on Maui can't cash flow unless you can add value in some way. If you can add a unit or if you can split the house, whatever it is. So it has to be able to cash flow. And then the second part is, do I have the capital at the moment? Right now, I don't have the capital because I've used up all my, I have almost $800,000 worth of HELOCs. And I've drawn them all up on recent investments. Like I've done some private money loans. I've bought a couple, my last two rentals, I bought cash and I put them on the HELOC for the down payment and the rehabs. And the last one, I just bought straight cash. So right now I don't have cash, so I'm not really looking for rentals. So I'm doing flips. And then if, we have a flip going right now. So this deal that came up is actually the deal that I mentioned I'm wholesaling is on another island also. So that's a pretty big factor. If it's on another island, I'll consider it, but generally I'm just going to wholesale it because I have a really good crew on Maui, but I don't, it was like a lot of trial and error to get that crew. So I don't want to go through that on another island. So I'd rather just wholesale it.
So did you say that you actually took money from a HELOC and then you gave a private money loan from that, kind of an arbitrage on the interest rate?
I did. Actually a few of them. I think 3 maybe. But I do have one actually that I think is another. I feel like I'm giving you guys all like the worst case scenarios on a lot of things besides that one rental that DealMachine brought me. But I have I shouldn't say share her name, but I have a friend that she is an escrow officer on Maui, and I've known her since I moved here in 2012. So I've known her for 13 years now. And done business with her, and she bought her first home in 2020, and she came to me and said, "Hey, I'm trying to like get some kind of a short-term loan to be able to renovate the place, pay off my credit card debt, and then refinance into a long-term mortgage because she had seller financing on it." And so I worked with her. I tried to help her get a hard money loan, and I was thinking about co-signing on it. It didn't work out. And then I was like, all right, well, look, I'll give you I lent her $100,000, I think it was. And my interest, I have a 5-year fixed rate on this HELOC for 5% interest. So okay. I was locked in at a good rate. And she agreed to pay 12% interest only payments for 1 year. And then she would refinance and pay me back. That all sounded great, right?
It does sound great.
Yeah. Sounds great. And it sounds like it's going to be great for me, right? I'm going to make a 7% spread on the bank's money. It's not even my money. Well, that was in July of 2023.
What happened?
And this house is located in Lahaina, and the house burned down in August. So she did all the renovations in July. She finished the renovations by late July, and then the house burned down August 8th.
So did she have insurance?
Did she have insurance? Yeah, she had insurance.
Okay.
I don't know the status of it. Honestly, I haven't really
Was your private money loan attached to the equity of the house?
So I have promissory note and a mortgage on the house.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's secured. It's pretty as safe as it can be, I think. She has continued to make her interest only payments this whole time. I mean, we're over 2 years now.
Okay.
and she's continued, and she has made a few like lump sum payments. So she's
Awesome. Yeah.
yeah, she's been amazing. However, I think that's a valuable story, because a lot of times when we look at scenarios like, or for me at least personally, I look at a scenario where somebody wants a private money loan. I look at the deal. I'm like, the numbers are like a no brainer, right? She owed 600 on the house. It was worth over $1 million. How can I lose? Well, the house could burn down.
So yeah, how does that work though? The insurance would come in and make her whole, right? So she could pay you back.
Depends on what kind of coverage you have, right? Like, I think a lot of people just assume like, oh, you got insurance on the house, you're going to get everything back. I don't know how much she's been paid for insurance. My assumption is that I would assume she's been paid out, but I trust her so much, and she's, she's shown me by making her payments every month and making these lump sum payments that she's going to do it. But I would assume that she used the insurance to pay off the first position mortgage, and to probably buy all of her stuff that she lost. Because imagine your home burning down, you have nothing, right? So she probably needed to replace her contents. And then my assumption is that when the lawsuit, because there's a big lawsuit for all the people that, their homes burned down, by Hawaiian Electric, is found to be at fault. And so they're, I would assume that she's expecting to pay off the balance with that. But the same thing has happened with actually a few other deals too. Not the same thing, but like similar things where I looked at the deal. I'm like, oh, it's a no brainer. There was one where we put in 125, and it was a commercial property on Oahu from another investor that does a lot of deals. Like, he's one of those guys, and he's in Oahu, which is where Honolulu, it's like the big city over there. And they have over 1 million people. Maui has like 150,000. So the market's astronomically bigger. So he has there's just more deals to be done. So this guy does a ton of deals. He's been in business a long time, and I invest 125,000 into this commercial building he buys that he's converting to a shared workspace. He's buying it for 600,000. It's appraising for 1.2 or something. There's equity. And it was supposed to be 4 months. Like, he was just taking on a little extra cash to finish the renovation. He was going to refinance 4 months later, and we were going to be paid out 13% interest payments.
Right.
And that was 3 years ago. And he's just stuck in the deal. He can't refinance because his finances are so complicated. You know how it is.
How would you go forward and not get into these mistakes? How would you protect yourself more going forward with these types of deals?
To a certain extent, you can look at experience and track record. The guy in Oahu is known for promising really quick returns and then deals dragging on. But at the same time, there's, it's pretty difficult to be able to have the foresight. The one sign that I could have seen in that case is that this was his first commercial property. And it just happened to also be at a time when commercial property was starting to shift from being hot to declining. But I would say all of these things are really hard to predict. They're just risk, right? Like, there's no way I could have imagined that the whole town of Lahaina would burn down. I mean, it's like, it's mind blowing, right? So like that, they're just risks involved. And I tell people, like, this is what justifies a 12% interest payment, right? Like, first off, there's no other way to get that money. It's a short-term loan. There's all those reasons. But the other reason is, like, you're taking on a risk. No matter how good the numbers look, things can go wrong, and you have to be prepared and accept those risks.
Well, so yeah, it seems like going forward, just like with your crew, you did a lot of trial and error. So you've done a lot of trial and error with lending, and maybe lending small amounts, see that comes back soon, and then get bigger in size. Maybe it might be a good strategy. But again, appreciate you sharing those tips. And kind of as we, wind up or wind down, I should say, Greg, do you have any advice for anybody who's kind of sitting in their 9 to 5 dreaming, but really, wants to live that Maui life where you're kite surfing and you're, kind of doing what you want with 20 rental properties?
Yeah. I would say, okay, so there's a few things that I were kind of, I touched on this before, but instrumental for me. The ones I didn't talk about were vision board. I am like a firm believer in vision boards. And then I did mention podcasts before. I just stopped listening to, so if somebody's listening to the show, they've already got that one down, but I just stopped listening to music entirely in 2016. And when I was in the car, I was listening to podcasts, and I was in the car all the time because I was driving during work for my meetings. And so I only listened to podcasts. So that was huge for me, the vision board. And then I also, I think it's really important to realize, like, if you're kind of starting off, or, you know, in the early stages of your career in real estate, it takes a long time, right? Like, it happened for me, looking back at it, like, it seems like it was overnight, but there was years of preparation. You know, I bought 3 rentals in my first year, which I never would have imagined. I was hoping to buy 1 a year, but there was years of preparation before that, right? And like, once I found podcasts and all this stuff like that, it kind of jump-started everything. It made it go a lot faster, but it's just not something that I see a lot of people come in and think like, oh, I want to get really into, you know, flip houses and investing and stuff and leave my day job. And after like a couple months of making cold calls, or, you know, sending direct mail, like, they're like, oh, it's not working. You got to make the sacrifice. I would say I sacrificed about 5 years of 3 to 5 years of like really working, you know, 80-hour weeks. And I'm passionate about real estate, so it wasn't that hard for me. I think that's kind of an important thing to look at too, is like, are you passionate about real estate? Do you love looking at comps on Redfin? Like, because I'll sit here all day and just be like, oh, look at this house. Oh, no, oh, they're asking too much. You know, like, I just love this stuff. And so that made it easier for me. But I think the point I'm getting at is, like, you got to be willing to accept that you're going to have to make a sacrifice. You're going to have to, like, work your fingers to the bone. And when, what's the saying? When luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I think that, like, sums up my whole career, right? Like, meeting Brandon Turner and him asking me to be his business partner, like, he came to me, right? Like, that's crazy. At the time, I was like, you know, it was like 3 or 4 rental properties, like my first year or 2 of investing. But he saw that I had put in the preparation, right? That I was doing the work, and I was determined, and I was going to do whatever it took to be successful. So yeah, it's hard work, but it does pay off if you stick with it.
Well, thank you, Greg. I really appreciate you sharing several things, right? How you struggle from addiction kind of made you discover real estate, how you learned how to work with a partner, and how to, figure stuff out whenever, stuff goes bad, but while you're doing well. And also how you can just live a really great life off of a few number of deals. I think that was the most inspiring part from this podcast. So I greatly appreciate you sharing that, and happy to help you out with any of the DealMachine tips on the data that you're diving into as you get into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.